Hi again, everyone. It's Professor Sebastian. Welcome back to our statistics class notes in section 7.1. So we are on page 91, second page in section 7.1, and we just got done talking about the how populations have parameters and samples have statistics. Here's a quick example of that. A researcher is interested in studying the heights of Canadian women. She takes a random sample of 1,000 Canadian women and finds the mean height of the sample is 64.2 inches. So the population she is studying is all Canadian women, but the sample is the 1,000 Canadian women that she actually measures their height of. And the statistic is the sample mean, where she gets 64.2 inches. Now the symbol we use for the sample mean is X bar. Now the researcher may use this estimate that the average Canadian woman then is 64.2 inches tall. Of course, there's probably some uncertainty in that because she's only measured the height of 1,000 Canadian women. So can we be certain that that is the average height of all Canadian women? Certainly we cannot, but we will eventually learn how we can try to measure that uncertainty. So what is statistical inference? Statistical inference is the art and science of drawing conclusions about a population based on observing characteristics of samples. It involves uncertainty because the entire population is not being measured. An important component of statistical inference is measuring our uncertainty. So by using those 1,000 Canadian women, we'd like to be able to demonstrate how uncertain are we when we give an estimate that the average Canadian woman is 64.2 inches tall. Another example, example 120, fertilizer chemicals. The chemical glyphosate is a common chemical used in lawn fertilizer. In January 2017, a research center published a report stating that 42% of Americans believe that glyphosate is safe to use as a weed killer on lawns. This was based on a survey of 2,400 American adults. Now, the population that we're talking about, that we're trying to study, is all American adults. The sample is the 2,400 American adults that we actually surveyed. The parameter of interest is represented by the symbol P. P is the percentage, really the proportion. We want to, when we get to statistical testing later, we want to think of it as a proportion, but we often talk about percentages more in our everyday language. Proportion just means that we simply want the fractional value or the decimal value of it rather than the percentage value of all American adults. So P is the percentage or proportion of all American adults that believe glyphosate is safe to use as a weed killer on lawns. And the statistic that we're going to use to estimate that population parameter P is called P hat. That upside down V over it is said by mathematicians and statisticians, we read that as P hat. And that is the percentage or proportion of the sample who believe the same thing there. So statistics versus parameters. Statistics we actually compute from our sample. So these are knowable. We can actually get statistics from a sample. Parameters are typically unknown. We can't know them really because the population is either too big to study or it's just impossible to find. Now they can be estimated with statistics, but these estimates will always involve some degree of uncertainty.